right, welcome back to the Always Bayern Chelsea show. Recording this one here on Monday, February 3rd, right after a Chelsea victory over West Ham 2-1. Bayern Munich beat Holstein Kiel over the weekend 4-3 in a weird match. And then there's been a lot of transfers going on, so I feel like we've got just a lot of stuff to kind of run down, and this is going to be a good, busy episode, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a minute since we got a couple of wins. That Wolf weekend was a good one, but for Chelsea to finally get a win, Bayern continues some winning ways as well, always great. And they really started off the weekend great Saturday morning for, you know, 95% of the match, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we'll kind of run down that full match and give you all the details about that one. But before I jump right into it, I did want to mention this is a video episode again, so check it out on the YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel because we're close to 100 subscribers, and I don't know if you've thought about this at all, but I think maybe I'll do try to give away maybe my little FC Bayern cards or we'll have to do a special episode, for 100 subscribers. So, um, I don't know. Maybe if you want these good-looking cards,
I
subscribe.
think if you show yourself as the 100th subscriber, you notice that you're that person, and you send us a message, I will give you 5 minutes of time on the air in a podcast, whether it's video or not. If you want the 5 minutes in an appropriate setting, I'll give it to you. But only if you notice that you're the 100th and then send me a message.
Hey, that's a good one. Yeah, so we're still ironing out the details there, but the point is, video episode, subscribe on YouTube, and we will do something special for the 100th. So just, keep building the anticipation for that. And yeah, maybe you, listener, will be the magical number 100. But yeah, let's jump into this Bayern Munich match against Kiel over the weekend. 17th place Kiel in the Bundesliga versus first place Bayern Munich. But I will mention that despite Kiel being the 17th place team, they did, if you remember way back in the beginning of the season, actually stole some points and drew against Leverkusen. And then not as long ago, they also handily beat Dortmund. So they were, they're a feisty little team and they're not going to be consistently good in the Bundesliga, but they are up for surprises every once in a while, as this match almost turned out to be. But let me just start by talking about the lineup company throughout there. Neuer, healthy enough to play now in between the sticks. Right back was Conrad Leimer, and left back was Raphael Guerriero. Center backs were Upamecano and Kim Min-jae. The back line really disappointed me this match, to be honest. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. Maybe we'll talk about it as we kind of detail the match here, but yeah, oddly enough, I thought the attack was back on. They had been the ones that were struggling lately, and then in this match, the defense was just kind of in shambles at points. Midfield was Kimmich and Pavlovic. Thought both of them did very well, and like I said, I think the whole attacking group did well, which consisted of to start, there were a lot of subs, but it started with Michael Olise as the right wing, Jamal Musiala as the 10, Kingsley Coman as the left wing, and Harry Kane as the 9.
Yeah, pretty solid lineup, I thought overall. You never know who's going to be on that left wing, but great to see Elise really back holding on to that right wing spot, and having Moose in that 10 is always going to give you a really great chance to win any match, as well as Kane up top, of course. So, and Kimmich, getting him back in his normal preferred midfield spot, I think was a key component on this day.
Yeah, an interesting thing to mention too is that Kimmich played all match, and he's played all match 90 minutes every single game so far for Bayern Munich this year. So I think at some point you got to give him some rest. And, I know he's in the ear of every single Bayern Munich coach, I'm sure, saying I got to play. But I mean, hey, if you're up 4-0 against Kiel, the 17th place team, like, why don't you sub him out? You know what I mean? You have Polina back now.
Definitely agree. I was going to ask you about Polinia, so if he certainly is back, I would say he's a guy that you need getting more minutes. You want more guys in form. Your key depth pieces, you want to be in form, whether it's playing 30 minutes, whether it's getting 60 and then Kimmich comes on late, depending on who you're playing. I just think it's important as you ramp up toward the key parts of the season here. These guys are going to have to play at some point. Injuries could pop up. We've already seen a lot of injuries. You need to be able to have some depth and you need to be able to trust guys because, yeah, it's great. Kimmich is playing all these minutes. You know, it's an incredible thing, especially at his age, but you never know. Crazy things can happen and you just always want to be safe.
Yeah, I agree, and that's part of the reason why I was a little bit frustrated with the lineup that the company threw out there in terms of the back line. And maybe, I get it, like Eric Dyer's sick and just coming back, so I get maybe not wanting to start him. But Upa and Kim are both injured and playing still. You have Stanisic who can play center back if he has to. I get that Ito's hurt, but in Stanisic, like you can play him at left back as well. You can play him at right back. He's such a versatile player. And then you have Sasha Bouet, who also didn't play at all in this match. He could have played at right back, at least some minutes. So I was just a little bit bewildered by the lineup. Like I get Limer's been playing good at right back, but he's been playing a lot too. And then Guerrero on the left-hand side is just such a defensive liability. I don't know what his deal is this year. He's been contributing nicely at times to the offense, but um, yeah, I mean him and Kim on that like left-hand side have just led to so many goals by their individual mistakes. So I feel like a match like this, especially, you got to start to rotate some of these guys in.
Yeah, Bouet, I'd like to see rotated more. Stanisic, you wonder, are they just nursing him back slowly, giving him an off day here after him playing, the other day there. So, yeah, some interesting choices that company will have to make, I think. But, as I keep saying, depth is important. So we'll see what happens with company's plans over the next few weeks and months.
Yeah, agreed. So, kind of getting into the match now. The beginning of the match, there were some chances for both teams. Honestly, Kiel had created some chances for themselves, and Bayern did as well. And then as the match went on, we kind of saw Bayern's offense start to take over, really accumulating in this brilliant goal. Maybe my favorite team goal of the season so far for Bayern Munich. I forget how it started, but it was kind of in transition, and then it got to Kane, who played a beautiful ball to Olise. Olise kind of makes a defender look foolish, and then finds Musiala kind of trailing in behind him, and Musiala just puts the ball in the back of the net. So beautiful assist by Olise, beautiful goal by Musiala to finish it off and to be there. And that's like how I want to see Bayern's offense running. That's, in my opinion, the epitome of how good they can be. Kane, Musiala, and Olise kind of free flowing, creating space for each other, and linking up like that in just a beautiful combination.
Yeah, combos like that are a thing of beauty, as you mentioned, and we've been kind of waiting to see how long it would take for some of these connections to really form. Guys have been injured in and out of the lineup, so it hasn't been as smooth of a transition as you'd hope. But the talent that they have, you're going to see goals like this, every few games, if not every game, or at least chances created like this. So for them to be humming along like that in the first 20 minutes of the game as well was very important.
Yeah, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. This match, their offense, I thought looked great. Sure, they missed some chances. Sure, Kingsley Coman skied a couple balls into outer space, but overall, the offense worked essentially how I want it to work, which is interesting because I kind of ragged on the defense and I will continue to rag on the defense as we talk more, but um, it had been kind of the inverse lately. The offense really since the winter break resumed, the offense really has not been connecting. They haven't been gelling. So it was good to see them do that here. Again, like a little bit of a preface, this is the 17th place team in the table. So if it's not humming here, you're really in deep. But either way, it was nice to see that. And then a little while later in the match, we actually have my moment of the match, and I will be sure to highlight this because I'm probably going to rip on Kim a little bit more later for how the match ended. But this here moment of the match, it was a goal line clearance by Kim. Kiel kind of broke through Bayern's defense, which again, worrisome. And as the match goes on, more worrisome and more worrisome. But ended up with a shot, and Kim, yeah, just a beautiful goal line clearance. And you kind of see him pump up the crowd and pump up himself and the team. So that was just a nice moment. And I think if that would have gone differently, the match would have really taken a bad turn or could have.
And clearances like that for a defender is the same as scoring a goal or providing a beautiful assist. You could be having a dog shit day as a defender, letting guys in behind, not blocking, not clearing balls, whatever. And then all of a sudden you make this game-saving clearance or a block, whatever the case may be. But to a defender, that is scoring a goal and is just as important. And so, I love when that happens for a defender, and I love when they celebrate just as much as a goal because, in my opinion, it matters just as much.
100%, 100%. Yeah, and then as the half goes on, I don't know, some chances here and there. Again, I liked overall what Bayern was doing. I thought Pavlovic was looking good. I think he's slowly taking steps to getting back to the player he was before he injured himself earlier in the year. And we can kind of see this match by match, in my opinion. He's getting a little bit better. Um, yeah, again, that left wing side, it was Coman today, and then later on there were subs, but wasn't always pleased with what I saw over there. But yeah, right before halftime, we see the second goal of the match into stoppage time, and actually Kingsley Coman, here's a really good moment from him after skying across, puts a beautiful cross right into the head of Harry Kane, and Kane, yeah, just buries it. And I got my Kane jersey on. If you're watching, um, you can see the beautiful white kit here, and yeah, it was kind of I felt solid going into half with a 2 goal lead.
Super creative assist, I thought, by Coman getting on his left foot there, his off foot. And to Kane's part as well, super creative with the finish kind of going back across the goal where the keeper um, probably chose the wrong way. Tough to save in that moment, but a tidy finish by Harry Kane.
Yeah, so again, feeling good going into halftime up 2-0. The thing I wasn't feeling good about was at halftime we did see Serge Gnabry come on for Michael Olise because Olise picked up a knock earlier in the match. It kind of looked like he just got cleated a little bit, and so I thought he was going to be okay, but you could tell he was struggling throughout the rest of the first half. Just you'd see him kind of grimacing and limping every once in a while. So I think he's okay. I think it's more of a precautionary thing. But yeah, Gnabry comes on at halftime, and then soon after half, we saw Kane's second goal. So Kane, I guess, completed a brace there, and this one was a really, really good header, and it was assisted by Guerrero, who, like I said, can contribute to the attack, especially when he has kind of more of free range to float around. And against these lower table teams, he can kind of do this type of thing a lot. But, while being a defensive liability, he still impacted the game in a positive way here, providing a nice assist. And yeah, just such a good header, I thought, by Kane on this one.
Yeah, Guerrero finds himself with loads of space over on that left-hand side and really delivers a perfect ball to Kane. You cannot have a better ball. And as you said, it's a brilliant header by Kane. It's not all the assists for sure, but yeah, Kane with two beautiful headers. I mean, to have a guy in the box like that can head the ball is a real nice thing if you're a teammate of Harry Kane.
Yeah, so that's what I want to see from Bayern. I want to see Bayern's wingers, and in this case, Guerrero, looking to find Kane in the box, and I want to see Kane looking to make runs in the box because a little bit too often lately, we've seen the box just get crowded out. I mean, like Zane, Coman, and Gnabry are clearly trying to make chances for themselves, which they can do that well sometimes, but they're under a lot of pressure right now. So they're kind of crowding out the box and really choking the life out of the attack at times. So to see things open up like this and to see crosses being put into the box, that's what I want to see. I think that's how Bayern's offense is at their best. Again, with Musiala and Olise as well, kind of providing link up. But I guess speaking of Gnabry, a few minutes later we saw what is, in my opinion, I would say in contention for one of the goals of the year, for Bayern at least. But yeah, there was kind of a nice move by Gnabry to get things started. I think or actually, yeah, so Gnabry dribbles in, I believe, passes to Coman, and then Coman fires off a shot, but it gets deflected off the defense. Ball flies up in the air. Gnabry like kicks it up to himself with his right foot and then finishes off with his left. So a complete like two-footed juggling masterpiece, and then just a banger of a shot that the keeper really has no chance at.
Brilliant goal by Serge, and reminds me of I forget who the player used to be back in the day in the Premier League, but there's this guy that he's all over TikTok with these highlight reels where he'd always do these little volleys up to himself and then score these long goals, and it reminded me a lot of that. Brilliant ball control, so tough to do. I mean, to lightly touch the ball with your right foot when it's super high in the air. You got to be athletic to do that and have ball control. Bringing it across your body, then over to your left foot, which just so tough to do, as I keep saying. And then to finish with power, just a brilliant play all around.
Yeah, it was awesome. And from there, Bayern didn't let up. They kind of had what I would say is I guess unstoppable, but I guess they were stopped. So, but really just like unrelenting waves and waves of attack from there. They never got a fifth goal though, and at the I guess I didn't write down what time it was in the match, but maybe around the 60th minute, we saw three subs happen for Bayern. Zane, Polinia, and Muller come on, and then Kane, Pavlovic, and Coman come off. I don't really have a problem with those subs in the moment. Good to get some guys some rest. Even Kane, who I always like to see playing, but he has to rest sometimes too. And one, I guess, funny moment during this substitution, if you can find this, I'd recommend looking it up. But the camera was on Jamal Musiala as the subs were happening, kind of caught him in 4K because if you're watching this on video, I guess you can see, but he's looking at the sidelines and he's like pointing like, me? Are you subbing me out? And then when it came to be that he wasn't subbing out, you could see him kind of like smile and pump his fists and almost like wipe the sweat off his face, which is awesome. I love to see a guy like that just want to stay in the match. And I just thought it was funny that the cameras were on him during that moment.
It is funny. I didn't catch that, but yeah, you always want your players hungry for more minutes, hungry for more opportunities, especially when you're up 4-0 at a certain point, more goals could be coming. So, but yeah, I agree on the subs in terms of whether they were the right decisions by company or not. I think when you're up 4-0, you can really do whatever you want because if you blow that lead, you're the worst, most embarrassing manager of all time. So, um, and we were just talking about Polinia getting more minutes. So for him to come on in that 60th minute, completely makes sense. Although it was for Pavlovic, not Kimmich, but nonetheless.
Yeah, and after that, well, I guess the first goal, things didn't fall apart right away after the first goal, but Kiel gets a goal right away, and I'm not going to blame Kim completely for every single goal that they had, but he had a part in every goal that they had pretty much after this. I believe it was this goal, this very first one, but one of them here, one of these Kiel goals, started from a pass that Kim just was trying to find Gnabry, and he just passed it right to Kiel, and then instant attack. Instantly, they're outnumbering Bayern, and they kind of just go in and score there. Another one of the goals was kind of a miscommunication between Kim and Rafa. It looked like creating so much space for Kiel. And then the last goal I want to say was the one that was actually Kiel had another instance of so much space. Bayern's defense just totally went to sleep at the end here, which I should mention, by the way. The last two goals came in stoppage time. So that first one was in the 62nd minute. And then in stoppage time, we saw two goals happen in 2 minutes. The last one was a shot that Neuer actually made a really nice save on, but then the deflection went right to a Kiel guy, and he just put it right in the back of the net there. So at the end of the match, things were super nervy. It was 4-3, but that's how things ended up.
Yeah, I'm not super concerned. I think when you're going to play a better team and get down to the nitty gritty in the later minutes, you're probably not making those subs anyway, and you're going to lock down and be more focused. So I'm not necessarily worried mentality wise. I think it's just frustrating because you like to give up less goals. And that first one, I will say, was a really nice finish, even if a mistake was made prior. So credit to the guy for that. And then, the second and third. Second one did seem like kind of a nice little team play by Kiel. And, you're getting down to those last minutes and maybe you're a little tired and a little more space does open up in the box. But agree with you on that third, where way too much space, that ball that was played through. I mean, I could have played that ball through with my weaker foot. Um, and from there they were bound to score, happens off the rebound. But yeah, I think it's definitely a lesson learned, and you're lucky that you only allowed three as opposed to four.
Yeah, well, I will say you are much more special than most people in the world, even professionals with your weaker foot. So, just if you're listening out there, I mean, take my word for it. But yeah, that ending was something you want to forget. I mean, Bayern clearly just kind of went to sleep there defensively. One other thing to mention, though, we did see Adam Aznou get subbed in the 85th minute. Um, he's a youngster. He's a left back who is more of the profile of Davies. I don't not saying he is Alphonso Davies, but he's more of that profile. He's quicker, as opposed to like a Guerrero or a Stanisic or some of these other options at left back. So a curious case with Aznou because there's been plenty of time now, especially with Davies' injury, similar to Tel, who we're going to talk about, where I thought Kompany should have used Aznou earlier. Obviously, he did nothing in this match, and then shortly after he comes on, two goals were conceded. So um, maybe there's a reason for Kompany never, ever, ever playing him, but the goals obviously weren't his fault. But yeah, it's just interesting that he's Company's really relying on all these veteran guys who a lot of people say are you know, washed up or whatever, instead of giving some of these youngsters a chance, especially in a match like this. And he eventually gives Aznou some minutes, but 5 minutes at the end, I mean, that's really nothing.
How good is his Spanish?
Yeah, true. We'll talk about at the end all the last minute transfer news at the end of the day here, but um yeah, I mean, now Bayern goes on to play Bremen next weekend. Leverkusen won again, so Bayern is up 6 points on top of the table right now. In terms of match awards, I'll give you a quick rundown here. Kane, man of the match for me, just the brace and really just being involved in the attack overall. Robin Musiala getting things started with that first goal and just a good match from him overall. He had a couple more good shots. He easily could have had a brace too, I thought. Um, Underrated or Fireball, pretty much as always, Kimmich. I mean, again, the Energizer Bunny, the heart of this team, truly involved in every single stage of play, completely dictated the pace of the match through and through. And then I thought Upamecano was the best defender on the day. He just had a solid performance. And between Kim and Upa was more of the leader, I thought, on the back line.
Yeah, pretty much agree for sure with the Batman and Robin. Kane and Moose, your best two players, and for me, were the best two players on the day. Liked what I saw from Olise as well, Kimmich, and Guerrero getting an assist. I'll just throw him as the better defender, although that's an offensive play, but an offensive game when you have 7 goals scored.
Yeah, true. I think something that I want to bring up too here about Bayern Munich is I'm getting to the point, I've seen some other people bring this up, and I don't necessarily think this is the only way you have to go, but I would love to see, and I think Company really should strongly consider. So, Vincent, I know you listen. Sorry, Vincent, I know you listen to this podcast. Hear me out. Try a 4-3-3. All right. Back line, it's going to depend on who's healthy, but Davies left back, Upa and Kim as the center backs. You can rotate Dyer in there, or Stanisic if you need to. Right back, Boué or Stanisic. Maybe a little rotation there with Limer too at times. Midfield, Kimmich, Pavlovic, Polina. You have three different profiles in the midfield there. Kimmich, which is everything. Pavlovic, who's kind of the accurate passer, setting things up, distributing. And Polina, who's the defensive destroyer, providing some more stability to that back line, which obviously needs it right now. And then the three attackers, you'll have Kane, Musiala, and Olise. Uh, Musiala kind of more on that left side, Olise more on that right side, opening up space in the box. Kane will no longer have the life choked out of him by these other wingers who are trying to force their way into the box. And the attack will be a little bit more free flowing along with Pavlovic and Kimmich too. Just a thought.
Yeah, it's certainly a good thought. And as you said, if Vincent has any scouts or representatives listening in on this, listen to my guy Danny here because he is a guy that's learning the game, but has shown lots of knowledge for the game. So sometimes you need fresh ideas. You always hear CEOs, leadership of companies talking about the need for fresh ideas, bringing young people, new voices in. So it's a consideration.
Well, that's a ringing endorsement, so I really appreciate that. Um, do you want to kind of switch up now and talk about Chelsea, or do you want to talk about any of the transfers first?
Yeah, I think let's just hit the Bayern transfers. Might as well keep it all German for this first half.
Okay, so yeah, there's a few bits of news with Bayern here. I guess first, the only thing we didn't talk about last time was Adam Aznou. We mentioned him before. Talented, quick left back, heading over to La Liga with Real Valladolid. Maybe that's how you say it. I've never even heard of this pronunciation before. They're sitting at the bottom of the table in La Liga, but I guess nonetheless, good for Aznou because, yeah, we talked about it, but he's not getting any minutes under company, and I don't really see that changing.
Yeah, looking at it now, I would guess with the way they have double L's, Real Valladolid would be my pronunciation, but that's just
Ah,
me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Good call, good call. I gotta hop on the Duolingo, of course, but yeah. So Aznou going there, I think it's probably a good move. Um, I guess, with Davies being injured, there's not a lot of depth at the left back position, but we weren't seeing we weren't seeing Aznou getting minutes anyways. But um, other things to mention quick before we talk about Tel, because it's a little bit more of a saga. Neuer just re-upped his contract today, so that was something we knew was coming, but Neuer will be extending for another year. He will be the keeper next season. And he also had a say in the signing and the scouting of Jonas Urbing, the young keeper from Köln that Bayern's signed over the transfer window as well. So Urbig's with the squad now, and I think, Bayern isn't yet sold on Nubel and Peretz as the heir to the Neuer throne. So I think Urbig's going to be thrown into that mix, and we'll kind of see what happens next year.
Yeah, good to see Neuer getting extended. Guy really hasn't slowed down this year, so but you also want to lock down who could be the next guy after him. So hopefully they can find ways for some other guys to mix in minutes here and there as well. I do think you need to consider, giving Neuer a little rest here and there.
Yeah, I do too, and I'm hoping that since he was part of the scouting and the signing of Urbig, you know, it, being reported that he's willing to give up some games next year, which would be nice. He hasn't really been willing to do that before, so uh, you know, I want to see Urbig get some minutes next year and kind of test the waters, in some of these matches. But I guess the biggest story in terms of Bayern Munich transfers is Mathys Tel because holy shit, every time I check the news, there's something different being reported about him. So let me give you the um, most current up to date as of 30 minutes ago news about Tel, and then maybe we'll back our way into how this happened. But as of right now, Tel is going on loan to Tottenham Hotspur for the rest of the season. There is an option to buy for them at the end of the year for 60 mil, but this is a massive but because I was devastated when I found that news out. The but is that Tel has to agree to being bought by Spurs, apparently, at the end of this year. So, if that's the case, I think I'm fine with it. He needs to get some more playing time. Company's not going to play him for whatever reason. Company's married to Coman, Gnabry, and Sané on that left side. So, um, it is what it is. But obviously, this was a huge, huge saga. Um, Going back now, really since the beginning of the transfer window. Tell sat down with Company. Company told him, "Hey, I'm gonna give you more minutes." Company didn't give him more minutes. Then Tell decided, "Okay, I'm gonna need to go on loan here and get some more minutes the second half of the year." So where can I go? There's a lot of, I would have liked to see him go to a Bundesliga club like Frankfurt. Apparently, he didn't want that. Plenty of English clubs, including Chelsea, were interested in him. Spurs wanted to buy him for 60 million straight up. Bayern was desperate to do that deal. Tell said no. I love Bayern Munich. I love this badge, and I'm, not going to go on a permanent right now. United were into talks. Arsenal were talking. Chelsea was originally interested. That's kind of how this all started. But I think towards the end, it didn't seem like Chelsea was interested.
If you believe briefs, I guess. Yeah, from my understanding on the Chelsea side of things, they've always really liked him. One of the two sporting directors at Chelsea is apparently head over heels in love with Mathys Tel and would do anything for him, essentially. So, kind of embarrassing overall for Chelsea, whether you like the guy or not, Mathys Tel. The fact that one of our sporting directors wanted him so bad and still you can't get him. The fact that Bayern did want to sell him on a permanent deal, which is what Chelsea wanted, kind of makes it a little embarrassing in my eyes for Chelsea. Whether he would have fit or not, who knows? We'll never know for sure. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. It sounded like Tell, wasn't really sure about playing time, which is fair. Chelsea's kind of been a mess in the attack. We've seen a few guys leave now, so maybe it would have been more interesting. But nonetheless, that's kind of how it played out from the Chelsea side. I think United and Arsenal never really were in on a permanent deal. So if Tell was leaning toward those two, that's probably why he didn't end up going there because they weren't willing to meet Bayern's demands.
Yeah, and it was just such a strange thing at the end of it because, yeah, I mean, it starts with Tell wanting to stay at Bayern and then not getting minutes after being promised minutes and then deciding to leave, you know, rejecting Spurs because were only in it with a permanent deal at first. And it sounds like, by all accounts, Tell loves Bayern and he wants to. I mean, he said he wants to be a legend at the club. He learned German in 6 months. Like, by all accounts, he goes on all these fan club visits and everything. And so, um, yeah, but obviously he needs to get minutes to continue his development. I'm sure his agents and everybody were in his ear telling him that. So, um, end of the day, after so much back and forth, Spurs, I guess, were willing to do the loan with an option to buy. But again, now it sounds like Tell has to accept the option. So I don't know. Maybe by the time the next episode airs, something different will have dropped. But I mean, the transfer window is closed now in Germany, and Tell has signed the contract. It's just the details of the contract that I think need to be kind of ironed out, or at least publicly talked about more.
Yeah, as long as you submit the deal sheet and that's signed, you're all good. And then I think you can get some minute details after that. But unfortunately for Tell, he's a young, exciting player that I would have loved to be a fan of. I will never be a fan of him just due to the fact that he will be wearing a Spurs jersey. Similar to Harry Kane, I can respect him as one of the best players ever in England, but he wore a Spurs jersey, so we'll never like him as a human being or player.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that, I suppose, as a Chelsea fan, but as a Bayern fan and as a Tell the person fan, I want what's best for him at the end of the day. I would love to see him be a legend at Bayern Munich. I would have loved to see him at Chelsea because that would have meant I would have been watching him more. I get not being sure about the playing time you're going to get at Chelsea. I mean, Chelsea has a guy as talented as Felix, who now we'll talk about, but is leaving on loan, and he's not getting minutes. And I don't know if Tell would have really fit into Enzo Maresca's system. I mean, he clearly doesn't fit into Vincent Kompany's system. So at the end of the day, I hope this works out for him. I hope that, yeah, overall he flourishes. I hope he drags Tottenham up from the depths of a relegation battle, which I mean they're not really in, but creeping closer and closer it seems. So, yeah, I hope he succeeds.
Best case scenario for this podcast is he goes on to score 15 goals the rest of the year, none against Chelsea, but Spurs really suffer defensively and lose every game, and they get relegated. And Tell says, "Wow, I did so amazing. I'm going back to Bayern. Fuck Spurs. London is blue. Up the Chelsea." And that's what I'll say.
Exactly. And I guess one thing I forgot to mention quick, Bayern did recall Vidovic from Mainz as supposed to be the Tell replacement, but if Tell didn't get any minutes, Vidovic probably won't get any minutes either. So um, there you have it. I guess that's the Bayern Munich transfer recap.
Have fun warming the bench, guy.
All right, I'll let you kick this one off here, talking about Chelsea's 2-1 win over West Ham.
Yeah, Chelsea came into today's match against West Ham in desperate need of a victory. It's been no secret that over the last 8 games, seven coming into today, that Chelsea have really struggled. They have only gotten one win, which came against Wolves. They've lost to some pretty poor teams, Ipswich being one of them. They've also lost to Man City, who's a solid team, but in their own right has struggled heavily. So you figured Chelsea could have done better. And as I sent a recording to you the other week, I think a week ago today, actually, I was just saying how I'm going to enjoy this ride because, Chelsea are in a fight for Europe. They still got Conference League to play. They got, you know, what is it, 16-ish matches the rest of this season, 14 maybe in the Premier League. And we're just going to see what happens. They haven't really made a lot of moves in the transfer window. They're a largely young team, inexperienced, exciting, talented first year manager in the Premier League. So I said, okay, I am going to enjoy it, let it be less stressful. And it might be no coincidence that Chelsea are 1-0 since that statement was made. Chelsea finally get a win. It felt great.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to be said in football, in life, wherever you want to apply this to, in letting go, taking a breath, and focusing on accepting what comes versus maybe butting your head up against it, or at least like not white knuckling the wheel so much. But hey, it worked out for Chelsea in this one. It's a beautiful game. It's even more beautiful when you sit back and enjoy the ride. And today was a day where it was a nice ride. Maybe not at first, but by the time the I don't know, the bus made its final stop, things were looking all right.
Yeah, you could certainly argue Chelsea wasn't a dominant team in today's match. They come in with largely an unchanged lineup except for two notable additions. The minor one being Tosin Adarabioyo coming in for Trevoh Chalobah, who had started a couple matches since being recalled. And then, of course, the large change on the day, Robert Sanchez out between the sticks, Philip Jorgensen in, the young Danish product making his third Premier League start for Chelsea, and ended up being a pretty uneventful one for the most part. Only allows one goal, nothing to do with his fault. Maybe made one mistake that didn't lead to a goal, but great to see Sanchez be out of it just for the fact that Maresca made that move and rolled the dice with Jorgensen.
Yeah, I mean it seemed to be the right move today. And I think some of the subs, Sancho, some of the subs Enzo made, we'll talk about, ended up being great choices. So, yeah, I thought Tosin had a really a solid match, especially had a key block at the end. And I thought Jorgensen was a little shaky at times, but overall did enough and didn't make some of those mistakes that we see Sanchez make at the keeper position. West Ham, I don't think pressured too much on either one of those guys, but yeah, I mean overall it worked. I mean, what can you say? You got the 3 points, so it worked. You take that.
Agreed. It's all about getting the win. And if it was a mental thing that helped the team, so be it. We've seen some players really with some poor reactions to things Sanchez has done. So this could be, the change in the wave that Chelsea need. But I did actually think Jorgensen had one pretty cheeky save that maybe went unnoticed. But we'll talk about Neto's goal. But in the first half, Jared Bowen for West Ham was in a situation that ended up being pretty identical to where Pedro Neto scored his goal, where he kind of is in the fray off a rebound and tries to slide one in with the left foot under Jorgensen, who gets a right knee down really nicely, actually. I don't know if you caught it. They announcers didn't even really talk about it. They like made it seem like it was more something with Bowen or like whatever it was, but I thought it was a really nice save. And like I said, wasn't really pressured or didn't have to make any other massive saves, but that one in particular stood out to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I recall that exact one you're talking about, to be completely honest, but I think if I'm Enzo Maresca at this point, I continue to roll with Jorgensen in the Premier League until the wheels fall off.
It's similar to last season where Sanchez was the keeper. Then all of a sudden he gets hurt. You put Petrovic in, and he doesn't give it up really in the rest of the year because he played fairly well compared to what Sanchez had been doing. So I think that'll be what happens. Technically you have a cup match this next weekend, but it's not a midweek match where you're gonna have two different keepers go. I think they'll roll with Jorgensen this coming weekend against Brighton. Jorgensen the next weekend against Brighton again, back to back, as we know coming up here. So yeah, that'll be key. And the only other piece I'm going to touch on in this first half, because really nothing to say about the half. Lackadaisical, largely pathetic for the most part, not a lot of energy. But West Ham does get a goal in the form of Jared Bowen, who I had listed as out, thanks to the internet for telling me that he was probably going to be out, but clearly was fine. I should have maybe listened to Potter's pregame press conference, but scores a gift of a goal because Colwill passes it right back to him with his weaker foot. Was he being pressured? Yes. Do I think it's a foul? No. And I think you can't make that mistake if you're Colwill. And on Instagram, he agreed with me. Not that I love players doing that, but yeah, Bowen slots it in nicely, and West Ham are off firing.
Yeah, horrible pass by Colwell there, and not a foul, I don't think. Um, yeah, I mean, you can't do that. Colwell has not been himself since Fofana got injured. I don't know if it's the rotating center back situation or what, but yeah, he just hasn't looked the same, regardless really of who plays next to him, outside of Fofana, I think. So hopefully that gets figured out. I don't know if it's stability. I don't really know if it's communication, or what, but yeah, not a good look right away. Although I thought, I mean, first half, really, yeah, I agree with you, nothing notable. I liked a few things that I saw from Noni. Actually, I liked a couple things I saw from Palmer, but overall, I mean, stale attack. I wanted to see more out of Jackson. I really wanted to see more movement out of Jackson in the box in particular. But yeah, other than that, I don't have anything to say about that first half except let's forget it.
Agreed. Not much exciting going on. Jackson really didn't show much for me. I thought the two wings were okay. Agree that I thought Noni was better than Sancho, kind of for the most part there. But, as we move to the second half, you're thinking, okay, over the last seven, we've had this approach where we've actually done better in the first half, worse in the second. So now, what is Chelsea going to bring in this second half? And no subs at half, which is weird because then 6 or 7 minutes in, Maresca makes two massive substitutions, Neto and Guiu coming on for Jackson and Sancho, which are the two I probably would have agreed with, Jackson and Sancho being the worst two attackers in that first half. Just funny to me that Maresca waited 7 minutes.
Yeah, I liked those subs. Like you, I thought that those two, Jackson and Sancho, were something wasn't working. I mean, They just weren't providing for that attack. They weren't creative. Stale, I think, is how I would describe them. No idea why the subs didn't happen at half. Yeah, just to happen 7 minutes later. Not sure about that. Maybe Enzo said at halftime, "Look, guys, I'm going to give you one more chance, and if you don't prove me wrong here in a few minutes, you're getting the boot." And that's what happened. But it turned out to be the right call. Um, Neto, I think, just brings something to this attack that the other wingers really don't at times. Neto just has that burst of speed, those fresh legs coming on as a sub, especially. And yeah, I mean, the crosses that he plays, I just want to reiterate, those are beautiful things. And I a lot of times wish Bayern's wingers would play crosses like that.
Yeah, I mean they're completely two different guys in my mind. Neto and Noni. Noni takes guys on, tries to dribble a lot, get into the box. Neto likes to cross, get past guys over to the kind of touchline there, and just provides a ton of energy, especially with winning the ball back. So to me, those are kind of the huge things. It was interesting because Neto comes in originally on the left wing and wasn't super effective, which isn't that surprising. I think at times he's better on the right wing. So didn't end up moving over there until the 61st minute when Gusto and Nkunku come in for Noni and James. And, the fact that Maresca made four subs in the first 61 minutes, I think was huge. I think showed that he's willing to change and do awesome things like that. And that allowed Neto to do exactly what you were saying with those crosses. So that's really the important thing in terms of a Maresca aspect. And then he's rewarded 3 minutes after those second two subs with a Neto goal.
Yeah, and that goal actually started with a cross by Neto, right? And then there was
It
kind of
did.
a rebound. I think Enzo took the shot, rebounded off the keeper, and then Neto, kind of trails it in and ends up finding the back of the net. So overall, just that cross, that action of a cross really started off something good. It started off something creative, which Chelsea was kind of lacking up until that point.
Agreed, yeah. And I think, part of that's GU willingness to get into the box. We saw Cucurella multiple times really racing up into the box, notably in the first half, but really throughout the game as he always does. It was just interesting bringing in Nkunku as well, even though they didn't necessarily have all these, wide open huge chances, but they're putting a lot of shots on net, which is always important, can lead to great things. As we saw, both goals end up just being because you're putting shots on net. And this team ended up really dominating the second half once all four subs came in. I don't think Nkunku did anything flashy. I don't think Gusto did anything flashy, but they controlled that second half. I mean, I don't really think West Ham did a ton. I think I'm looking now. Chelsea end up with 72% of possession in that second half. West Ham actually a little higher XG, but it still felt like Chelsea were controlling that second half because of those subs.
Yeah, I think it felt like Chelsea was really dominating the second half, even though, I mean, maybe the stats don't say that. It felt like that watching the match at least, especially like in terms of possession, like you said. But yeah, those subs, whatever it was, sometimes you push the right buttons and sometimes you don't, as I like to say. And today, I mean, those subs just changed up something in that attack because I'll just reiterate what I said, but the attack was stale and then something changed. I don't think you can directly contribute or directly like associate it with one guy, maybe Neto if you had to pick one, but the combination of all the subs just changed up the attack and maybe it just threw West Ham off. Like I don't know, maybe West Ham was used to the way Chelsea was playing in the first half, and then, because like you take Jackson off, and Chelsea doesn't really have a like for like with Jackson, so their whole attack kind of changes, and Neto switching sides, I think, affected the flow of the game and everything, and yeah, I mean West Ham just couldn't like match that once Chelsea made those changes. And West Ham, it looked like sure as hell brought a bunch of subs in trying to match some of these changes, but nothing really worked for them.
Yeah, I think energy is a huge thing in this sport, in a lot of sports, and Neto and Guiu, quite frankly, provide a lot of energy. Guiu always a smile on his face. He's going to work harder than anybody on the pitch. And when Nico Jackson is not scoring goals, you can replace him directly with Guiu because he's going to give just as much energy, press just as hard, do the things that Jackson does off ball, making runs. And even if Guiu's not scoring goals, then it's really the same exact player because, Jackson's supposed to be a better finisher. So to me, I saw Guiu flying all over, throwing his body on the line. I mean, we saw him get hurt. Sounds like he's probably going to be okay, but that to me is massive, and I think shows that Maresca can throw him in there if he wants to, at least for the energy that he brings. So definitely the subs made the difference. And I think Chelsea, if they can just kind of ride this momentum and going forward, try to pick up that same energy level, wins will come.
Yeah, I agree. It's about not being complacent. I think subbing Jackson out is a great message as well, just to anybody. You can't be complacent with how you are. You have to bring that energy like Giyu does, smashing his head into poles sometimes, and just, putting his body out on the line. But yeah, I mean, overall, I actually thought the first half, the best chance Chelsea had all the entire first half was a free kick that Palmer had that ended up not finding the back of the net. I think it was actually a really nice save if I'm remembering correctly. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, Palmer getting that goal off of, or actually, I guess it was an own goal, maybe credited as, I'm not sure, but Palmer shot it, it goes off West Ham and ends up in the back of the net.
Yeah, Palmer had a pretty great day overall. Doesn't end up on the score sheet with a goal or an assist, but that second goal is him getting to the edge there and putting a ball, which, yeah, technically would have been more of a cross than a shot. But the fact that you're putting a ball in a dangerous area is always going to be a good thing. And I think any player would tell you that. So credit to Palmer for that. He probably should bag a goal in that second half. Had this moment where Caicedo slots one in the middle of the field, and then he's on the edge of the box and ends up with loads of space. I don't know what the West Ham defenders are doing, but curls one just outside of the left side of the goal there. Looks like it kind of went in, didn't. Palmer is probably going to tell you he needs to make that 9 out of 10 because when you look back at it, there's a ton of space and he should score. But still, he was great on the day. I thought him and Caicedo once again are just the best two players on the pitch at all times for Chelsea. I think Caicedo ended up getting the man of the match from the Premier League there. So those two doing what they do every match.
Yeah, I think the shot that you're talking about, Palmer's gonna want that back. That's a shot that a guy like him can make. Wasn't an easy shot, but a guy with the skills that Palmer has can bend that one in. Great match by Caicedo again, just like you said. I liked what I saw overall from Caicedo. More so in the second half. The first half was just not many people looked good, I thought, on Chelsea, but maybe I just wasn't watching closely enough. But either way, I thought Caicedo had a very nice second half, in particular. And yeah, I would give Palmer an award. I'd give Caicedo an award. I would also give Neto an award just because things really changed when he came on and getting that goal. Was I think the energy boost that Chelsea needed. I mean, the crowd sounded like totally raucous after that. Up until that point, you could almost hear a pin drop, but after that goal happened, I mean, the crowd was totally back into it, and I think Chelsea just looked like revitalized to their core after that goal from Neto came in. So, um, he played a good match, but like even more so, I think emotionally and spiritually uplifted this team and the stadium.
Definitely moment of the match was Neto and Guiu coming on in that 52nd minute. I will shout out a couple other moments and players. Agree with you on Palmer and Caicedo there for kind of the Batman Robin, but Reece James, since really coming back here from injury, has largely played 60 minutes at a time, but those 60 minutes are about the most professional as you can get for 60 minutes of play. So consistent, nothing flashy, but no mistakes. puts in 2 to 3 really nice crosses per game, sometimes including a corner or two. And I think he's just showing that he is one of the best right backs in the world, if not the best in England when he's fit. I hope we can see him starting to get up to 90 minutes. But at this point, I will take 60 minutes every match if that's what he can deliver. And then Tosin, a huge block toward the end that we've seen now twice where he saves a match at the end with him putting a leg down. And that is huge. As I said with Kim earlier for Bayern, just huge for a defender to make a play like that.
Yep. Yeah, I mentioned I thought Tosin had a really nice match, and I gave the defender of the match award to Reece James because of, yeah, basically what you said. I thought that he was really the life link of that back line in the first half, kind of holding things together, and probably the reason that things really didn't get more out of control from a standpoint of Chelsea spiraling in this match. But and then also, like you said, contributing offensively, there were two crosses that I can remember that he put into the box that if somebody else was there, I think one of them, Cucurella kind of headed like way too high, but I wanted Jackson to be there. I think if there was a little bit different or more movement in the box at different points in the match, I mean, you could see James getting an assist easily in a match like this if things were different. So, yeah, I mean, again, just another professional is the best word to describe him, I think. So, nice job thinking of that one. Reece James is my favorite player on Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean he really just is a professional player and professional person and a great leader for this team, so that's awesome to see. Chelsea, as I mentioned, will go next weekend, this coming Saturday in the FA Cup away to the coast. I believe Brighton's on the coast. But yeah, they're going to play away at Brighton in the FA Cup, fourth round, something like that, third round, whatever it is, probably fourth round.
Yeah, I think fourth.
So that'll be interesting. I think Chelsea's got to put out a strong team. Brighton has been shaky as of late. They just got pummeled by Nottingham Forest 7-0 this past weekend.
I did see
So
that.
they're probably going to be rearing to go, which scares me a little bit. But hopefully Chelsea go in with a little bit of maybe an underdog mentality and say, okay, we're the road team now, and we're going to see what's up. So it should be interesting playing them back to back. Um, yeah, I think Chelsea should have the edge in that if they play with the same energy.
What's your thought on lineups for Chelsea? Would you run basically this lineup, like basically their main lineup, out both times against Brighton, Premier League and FA Cup, or what do you think about that?
Definitely for this first one, as I mentioned, it's not midweek. You're playing weekend to weekend. You don't necessarily need to rest guys. I think if anything, you could make a midfield change. I wouldn't be shocked if he played a KDH or somebody in the midfield just to see. Um, wouldn't be necessarily my preferred move, but you could definitely see a Chalaba in there for Tosin as well. But I think he's going to go with that strong Premier League lineup that's been going. The wings, once again, you could make a change. I think Neto deserves to start for sure. But we'll see. Anything can kind of happen there. But I definitely am going with a strong lineup.
Yeah, we'll see, and I'll be watching these closely because as you may know, I'm a fan of Brighton's coach, the old St. Pauli boy, Fabian. I don't know exactly how to say it, Hertzler. So he kind of has his own unique, interesting style. Brighton is always just seems like a team that's just interesting for whatever reason. They seem like they can be on one day and kind of chomping at the heels of the top dogs, and then another day they can lose 7-0, like you just saw.
We'll see what happens. They're definitely an interesting team, hot and cold for sure. Did want to touch on the transfer window for Chelsea as it did close. I'm gonna try my best to remember off the top of my head. I was trying to look for an account that put out everything summarized in a nice tweet. Unfortunately, I haven't really found anything, but off the top of my head here, I think, Chelsea brought in Chalaba as a recall, if you kind of count that. Then they just signed today Mathys Omogu, if that's how you say it. He is a midfielder out of League One at Saint Etienne. 15 million euros looks like. I was thinking that they were going to maybe loan him to Strasbourg, but obviously they didn't do that in time from my understanding, unless that can maybe happen right after today. But that's going to be the depth, I guess, for the midfield with Lavia hurt, Enzo and Caicedo if they get hurt or need rest. So that's kind of your only incoming for Chelsea, unless I'm forgetting somebody.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's yeah, just those recalls, and then I know I feel like I see something every day about a guy that they loan out. So good luck
Yep.
trying to run through all of those.
Yeah, I'll do my best here. So we got Axel Disasi out on loan to Aston Villa. Did end up happening. He's not playing much and frankly makes too many mistakes, so that's fine by me. Chilwell finally leaves to get some playing time. Happy for him. Loaned out to Crystal Palace. Then you have João Felix. It sucks. From everything I've seen, this is just typical Chelsea with Jorge Mendes, who's Felix's agent. Sounds like they only bought him so that they could sell Gallagher and then make the PSR and do this favor for Mendes because Felix, who knows? But it's not great. I love Felix, but he's going to AC Milan. Then we have, let's see, what else do we have for Chelsea here?
Dortmund
Yep,
and
Carney.
yep, Carney to Dortmund, and someone went to Vega went to Juventus, right?
Vega did go to Juventus. Yep, that was a week or two ago. And then you got some minor ones as well. An academy product, Harvey Vale, who was actually Academy Player of the Year a few years back, ends up just being sold to QPR, I think, in the championship. Other small stuff happening. Caleb Wiley, who was on loan at Strasbourg, goes on loan to Watford now. But yeah, we didn't see Santos recalled from Strasbourg. They lost this last weekend, but they've been playing great as of late, competing for a European spot. Didn't see Leslie Ugochukwu from Southampton recalled. So this is the team Chelsea's running with, and they're gonna need to make a strong push in the Premier League as well as once the Conference League picks up. So that B team, if they go with that in the Conference League, we'll see for sure. It's going to be tougher-ish matches in the Conference League knockouts, but you're still probably not playing your best lineup. I don't know. We'll see, but without a Felix, you're gonna have less attackers because you didn't bring in another attacker now. So, and you're also without Mudryk, let's remember. So, yeah, very interesting window for sure.
I'm extremely disappointed in how Felix's time has been at Chelsea so far. I've loved every minute I've seen of him playing. I get, it's the Nkunku Tel conundrum of they're playing behind these guys who are never really going to sit, but um, a guy like Felix, I personally feel like is talented enough where you have to give him some minutes, whether that's whatever, if you sub out Palmer, I don't know, but regardless of if you don't want to do that, um, alter the lineup a little bit or alter the formation where you can get him minutes because I really liked what I saw from Felix every time I saw him on the pitch.
Yeah, maybe my most joyous moments of this season so far have been watching Felix and Mudryk vie for the honor of me buying their jersey in the Conference League. And clearly a good decision by me to not buy either because they're both banished at this point. Mudryk literally banished, but yeah, it's definitely disappointing that it's coming down to this kind of political BS with an agent and the way Chelsea do things. I just think it sucks. I think it really sucks that that has to be the way it works, and it's disappointing. But I'm gonna back this team no matter what. I'm not gonna like every decision they make, but I will root on this team and cheer for all the players that we do have right now. And I still think they have the pieces that can get them to a top five spot in the Premier League. It's just about playing their best ball, and they will have to play their best ball for the rest of the season and I hope we can get there. And then in the summer, if we need to reassess, we'll reassess. But for now, this is the team we got, so we got to let it ride.
We got to enjoy the ride. And yeah, of course, stay tuned because at least on the Bayern end of things as well, A lot of Champions League ball coming up. I mentioned the Bremen match is next weekend for Bayern in the Bundesliga, but right after that, there is this horrendous week of 7 days where Bayern plays Celtic at Celtic. I'm happy it's not Man City. I talked about that kind of in the last Champions League edition episode, but Celtic is not a pushover team, and the way Bayern's playing, I mean, they lost to Feyenoord 3-0. They could lose to anybody in the Champions League. Um, and Celtic, I know, has a really, really good away atmosphere home for them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so Bayern goes to Celtic. Then they play Leverkusen that weekend in the Bundesliga, and then they play Celtic again, the return leg at the Allianz Arena the next week. So um, we're going to have a lot of stuff coming. Of course, we mentioned Chelsea plays against Brighton in the FA Cup and then in the Premier League. So it's going to be a busy couple of weeks, but strap in and as we say, enjoy it. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah, definitely exciting matches to come.
And one last time, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want some fresh cards, if you want the chance to be live on the air. Subscribe, and once we get there, just let us know, and maybe we'll think of something else too. So, yeah. In the meantime, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Of course, a video episode. We're gonna keep pumping them out. That's really all I have to say here at the end. You got anything else to sign off with?
All I have to say is up the Chelsea.
Mia san Mia, forever.